Okay. Trying this again. All right. We got the chat window. I Googled it. It seemed to work. Let's see if we can get Taylor in on this awesome fun. I think he's working on stuff, but he's always up for a good stream. Streaming on restream. Want to join? Okay. Cool. So we got that going. Now, it's Friday night. We're going to nerd out on some crazy, awesome Jeter stuff. And let's just test this. Testing the chat. Working. Okay. So tonight, I've got a little bit of a lineup for us to go over. This is going to be fun. I promise. Time to nerd out. Here we go, T. Taylor and I were just nerding out for the last 2 hours on all kinds of Merly and other nerdy things. This is going to be a crazy stream because we're going to discuss at least, and there's another one. Yeah. So I think I was mentioning at one point, actually, okay. Goju. Control. Oh, wait, hold on. One more. Neck cooling thing. Bob. Oh, more than that. Ander. Arguably the best ever Star Wars thingy. Don't argue with me. I'm the boss. That's how I run Merly too. Sorry. No, I'm the boss. No, I'm kidding. I don't actually run. This is going to come out of context and we're going to get something like, there we go. If MIT is going to mistell it, then I'm going to misquote MIT. There you go. Much love, guys. Come on, you know I'm kidding. All right, so here's what we're going to go over. And yeah, we can make it 7. Let's make it I have a few different 7s in my head. But I don't even know how to spell her name. Did Goju quote Britney Spears? Is that how you spell her name? As a sign of something to do correctly? Yes, he did. Taylor was there. And it actually made sense in the context. All right, so let's look at our list. These are just the strange and random things that I think we're going to talk about. We'll see how many we get through, but minimally, yes, Taylor can confirm he was there. And I said something like, hit me one more time. I don't think I said the baby part. I did say hit me with it one more time. Hit me with it one more time. And I'm like, okay, yes, I just quoted Britney Spears. Oh my gosh. Okay. Bad Goju. bet. No, I mean, look, let's just be honest for a second. Some of her stuff is it's catchy, okay? So is it like not necessarily my style, and I'm more of the style of this is what we're going to listen to, this guy? Yes. But, let's be real for a second. You can have some catchy tunes from some. There was this band, Ace of Base. Okay, Ace of Base. If you don't know who Ace of Base is, Ace of Base. These guys, okay? Super duper trendy. I saw, yep, there you go. I saw the sign. Yes. We're already way off course. Look at this. We have 7 things. We're not even, how do we get this? This is why Taylor and I end up having 5-hour conversations, is we just rabbit hole each other on into infinity. Maybe we'll have to start calling it Merle holing ourselves, just to save all the rabbits. Anyway, Ace of Base, 1987. Listen to some of their songs, okay? I mean, they're so darn catchy. And even if you don't want to like them, which I didn't necessarily want to like them, I listen to their stuff and then, what is happening? Why am I buying this album? This kind of thing. So, and literally the I Saw the Sign, I don't even think that's like one of the best songs. Their album is actually like surprisingly good. So let's not judge against Britney Spears. Okay. Like, is it a little trendy? Is it a little like teeny bopper? Yes, it is. But is it bad? I don't know. I mean, by this rule, you could be like, all JavaScript code is bad, right? No, not all JavaScript code is bad. Okay. Some of it is. Some of it is really not great. You just know. But some of it's good. Some of it's really helpful. All right. So let's, yeah. And speaking of other bands that are really catchy, I'm actually a huge fan. I'm going to be serious here. I'm a huge fan of ABBA. And I think like disco music is coming back. All right. I think that we're about ready to like, for example, look at my hair. This is like 70s hair, I think. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I was actually born in the 70s, but like I was 5 years old by the time the 80s hit. So I don't really know what was happening in the 70s. All I'm saying is like this whole going around, come around thing. So maybe we're at the 60s. I don't know. But this stuff is coming back. Just watch. Okay. So now let's go back to the list. Here's what I'm planning for us to tentatively talk about. And we'll see if we actually talk about this. First, is it true that an Elden Ring movie is coming? Supposedly it is. That's right, folks. We may have broken in the big time. And I want us to curb our enthusiasm because, oh, here's your legit 7. There you go. This is okay. I'm probably going to be crucified for this in the comments, but let me explain. I've been doing my 15 minutes of Cyberpunk a day, and I've drawn some conclusions. And yes, I already had to add the mod to make it work more like Elden Ring because who prefers first person? I mean, like, who really prefers first person over third person elevated? Yes, I realize the whole FPS mumbo jumbo, blah blah blah, blue blue blue, but like, can we be real for a second? first person, you're going to get motion sick very fast. A lot of us do, myself included. And I want to play the game, but I don't want to be taking Dramamine every time I play the game. I think that's kind of lame. And if you make it third person, slightly elevated, then I can play it without wanting to, kind of, not feel nauseous the whole time. So is it surprising that the first mod that I added for Cyberpunk is the mod that allows you to be third person? Is it also surprising that that mod was built and lots of people are using it? No, because I realize this is sacrilege and I expect to be totally flamed. I think that Cyberpunk should be, by default, third person, tilted view. And if you go into shooter, sniper, whatever mode, then it can switch and maybe switch automatically. And then when you are out of battle or you're not zooming in with the camera or with the scope or whatever, then it knows, right? It's not hard. Okay. Game programmer over here. Not hard. So I think it's a little bit lazy, and I think Cyberpunk should have done what Elden Ring did by default, which is make it third person elevated. Go ahead. Tell me I'm wrong, and we can get into it. All right. That's the first topic. Next topic. We're going to do some pointer fun. That's right. We're going to code, and we're going to do some very simple or seemingly very simple stuff. And it's going to get complicated really fast. And it's going to go back to mastering the basics. Why we really want to master the basics. And then when we do master the basics, everything makes so much more sense. I can almost guarantee a large number of people are going to be quite surprised with what I show that is super simple and doesn't require any major advanced features of the language, in this case, C, C++. But I think you can probably do this. Well, I know you can do this to some degree in Java, Go, probably C Sharp, and some other languages. So it quasi generalizes. We'll look at that. Okay, the next topic is more just laughing at university teaching times. I think I was mentioning that I thought it was crazy that the uni that I teach at seems to run classes until 10 p.m. I didn't think that was really a thing, but turns out, as I think most of you know, I teach every fall, or they call it the autumn quarter because quarter system and stuff. Yeah, because winter, I think the winter quarter actually starts in January, and I don't teach then. I just teach the autumn quarter, which is September to December. And so, yeah, just as an aside, I couldn't say no. I wanted to. I know we've got a company and all that stuff and all that, but I have to teach this stuff because it makes my brain grow and stuff. So I said yes, I'm on the hook, and now they're asking me when I'm going to teach. So in looking at the options, I saw that I could pick one that would take us until 10 p.m. And yes, absolutely, that we need more machine programming. And did I really say that about Elden Ring? I mean, that would be one of my first pieces of advice. Like, don't go. The guy on the horse, don't approach him. I think I was actually playing with someone that maybe has not played like Dark Soul type games. Was it? That's awesome. So they're not like a Dark Souls kind of person. And I was explaining to them that, that some of these games will send you down this path of like, you shouldn't do this. And that it's not one of those like, go down this path and you'll eventually figure it out. It's more like, don't go down this path. Figure out really fast that you're not ready for this path and then go somewhere else. And the person that I was trying to advise was not hearing it. So after they were made unalive by the tree sentinel over a dozen times, they eventually got the clue and went around the tree sentinel, which is not that hard to do, but you do have to be a little bit intentional. And so they were, and things got better-ish. Anyway, so university teaching times, I don't think I'm going to do that. Just as an FYI, I don't think I'm going to do the 10 p.m. thing. Although I do want to share that this last year, I think I started teaching. I think I started the class at like 11 a.m., something like that. Yeah. I can't remember why I did that. It was like, so I usually teach for about 2 hours. And yeah, I think I did like 11:30 to 1:30. I think it was because I wanted to get to the Murley office before traffic. And traffic in NorCal usually kicks in like around 3 p.m. or so. And so the idea was if I finished around 1:30, then I'd have an hour and a half to essentially either get to my home office and then work or get to the Murley office. Little did I know that the students would then want 2 or more hours of office hours. And then it kind of just made sense to do them while I was there. So I got stuck in traffic regardless. But I'm sharing this because prior years, I think I taught later, like 4:30 to 6:30, something like that. And one of the things I noticed, and I'm not faulting anybody here. In fact, if anything, maybe I'm agreeing with this a little bit. What I noticed is when I was on the campus, because again, I think my class started at 11:30 a.m. So I would show up around 11 a.m. and then I'd hike across the campus, big campus. And I intentionally would park kind of far away so I get my steps in and stuff. And I noticed that the campus is like empty. I mean, there's like nobody out. Now, this is like 11 a.m. on a weekday. And no students to be seen, like anywhere. But when I'm leaving, and it's like 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. or whatever, it's fully loaded. Also, when I was teaching later in the day, when my class would start at like 4:30, and I would walk past the Tressiter Student Union, fully packed. So what's the moral of the story? Maybe the students wouldn't mind the later class. I was actually toying with doing a bizarre experiment, just so you can see how like kind of twisted my mind is what if I taught this autumn from 8 to 10 p.m., but I made it like Thursday and Fridays. Ooh, I have a feeling very few students are going to show up. Now, keep in mind, this is a grad class, right? So occasionally you'll get a super courageous undergrad that I'll say, okay, well, if you really want to go for it, like it's probably not going to be good for you, but okay. So, but these are grad students where they, are not straight from high school and they have a little bit more maybe maturity and professional growth, and many of them are like PhD students and stuff. So one wouldn't necessarily think that 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. on a Thursday and Friday would be that bad. But I'm probably wrong. I'm probably. I have a feeling that if I did this, I would probably have 3 students in my class, which actually might not be a bad thing. Although I think the university would probably be a little disappointed with my poor choices. So anyway, I'll keep you all posted, but it is true that you can have a class that runs until I think like 10 p.m. It's pretty cool. I kind of like it, actually. I think it's, yeah. Okay. The next thing I want to mention is this neck cooling thingamabob. And in fact, we're just going through this list, so I'm not going to get to it yet. But I have this new neck cooling thingamabob, and it's super cool. And it's great with the summer approaching, especially for people who, yeah, exactly, T, right, to see who's serious. And the truth is, I have some students that are like fully locked. Like there was, yeah, every year I've taught at this university, there's been some students like they will not miss a lecture, like not one. I think one of them was emailing me saying they have COVID and they want to know, should they still come? And I'm like, you shouldn't. You really shouldn't. Like, I'll send you the slides. Like, I appreciate the fire, but no, just stay, rest. Plus, like, yeah, the other students, right? But yeah, every year I'll get a couple students where not only will they be at every lecture, they'll be like 30 plus minutes early for every lecture. Like I'll show up 15 minutes before the class starts and they'll already be seated waiting for me. Like, okay, Prof G, like, I thought we were going to get some like one-on-one time. I think that's part of their strategy. It works, by the way. Pretty clever. So anyway, we'll keep moving forward. So neck cooling thing. Then I want to talk a little bit about Andor. Brilliant show. MIT thinks I hate dogs. We'll talk about this. This actually came up a little bit because I was talking with an MIT alum, this guy, Mark Roberg, who is an incredible individual and an expert in go-to-market strategy and all of this stuff. And I think he did his master's, yeah, maybe like an MBA at MIT. Well, what the heck? Let's look him up. Yes. What? No. It's okay. Mark. Yeah, so he teaches at Harvard. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so he did his, I think, MBA at MIT Sloan School of Management. I think that's right. Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize that he did his bachelor's at Lehigh. That's cool. So anyway, I was speaking with Mark. Look, this is his classroom at Harvard, I think. That's probably him up there. This is about my classroom size at the university. You think that's about similar, Taylor? Given that you gave a keynote address in that room? This one looks like maybe it's a little bit bigger, but mine might be a little cooler in that it has stadium seating. This looks a little more flat, whereas mine kind of slants up. Yeah, it looks about the same size. Yeah, I think so too. There is one fundamental difference is that, yeah, a bit wider, maybe room is a bit deeper. Yeah, I think that's probably right. Yep. There is, I think that's probably right, T. This does look longer, but mine's probably deeper. But needless to say, Mark and I think, are teaching in similar sized rooms. There is one really big difference, though, that I want to share. And that is in his class, you can see there's very few empty seats. In my class, there's very few seated students. It's like the inverse. And it doesn't like start out that way. When it starts, there may be like this many students, but after the first week or so, I've effectively scared off usually about 70 to 80% of the students with how much work it's going to be, and then they decide to take something easier. And that tends to work out, I think, pretty well, because I am all for doing hard things. So anyway, I was talking with Mark today, and so I started thinking about MIT, and then I started thinking about how MIT paywalled my one of the articles. There's a few articles that we've discussed machine programming with MIT, and that's pretty cool. But I think it's this most recent one, they paywalled it, and I don't think they paywalled many of the prior ones. In fact, none of the prior ones I think have been paywalled, and I think it's because this last one was actually getting like quite a bit of attention, which is great, but not so great if it's paywalled. And then on top of that, they misquoted me and basically said that I think my dog is dumb, which is not what I said at all. MIT, like, so out of context. I don't hate dogs. Lastly, yes, I did quote Britney Spears. Okay, cool. So this is our list. Let's see. We spent the first 30 minutes explaining the list. Now let's see how long before I get tired and decide, okay, this is the end of the stream. But at least we got over like a full pass of what we're going to talk about. Now, before we talk about any of these things, we need to roll back and talk about this. Now, for those of you who don't know KMFDM, if you like music that is that is tame, that is more like Britney Spears, this is probably not going to be your type of music. Okay, I want to start there. So you're probably not going to like this song. These guys are very like Five Finger Death Punch. They're like Metallica, except more techno. It's hard to describe them, and I don't want us to get copyright struck, so I'm not going to play this. But I want to share that I've been listening to KMFDM. Lots of people think they know what this stands for, and you can Google it. I don't want to Google it because this is a family show. But I don't think it actually really means the Depeche Mode. Do these things to Depeche Mode. I think it's actually like a German thing. But then I kind of feel like they leaned into this meme, and I think they have a song about Depeche Mode, which is pretty funny. Anyway, this song, of many of the songs from KMFDM, this one in particular is one of my all-time favorites. I can listen to this song on repeat for hours on end. So if music that is like techno, a little bit angry, and a photo like this, or like an album cover like this, doesn't freak you out, instead you get kind of like cyberpunk excited about it, then you might like this. So give it a shot. And if Britney Spears or Mariah Carey or other stuff like Taylor Swift is more your type of music, don't listen to this. This is not going to be your cup of tea. That being said, I started looking at this and I was kind of amused at some of these comments. Let's just look at a couple. Just discovered KMFDM. Shit, what a shitty life I was living till today without this music. Yeah. Yeah, brother. I feel ya. I love seeing comments from 12 years ago and 3 months ago. KMFDM will never stop. Yeah. Some songs make you feel like you have the power to do anything, and this is one of them. Oh, yeah. Okay, we got to like some of these. These are pretty great. I remember seeing these guys when I was 17 in Phoenix. I made the mistake of drinking a lot before I went in. I was insanely dehydrated, wasn't going to give up my place up front. At the end, I caught Sasha's glove. Whoa, that's cool. This is like one of the like main guys. Sasha's glove, a reward to my dedication. That is super cool. This song is unlike any song I've ever heard. Yeah. So, these guys are pretty interesting. And if you Google them, you'll see that I have like 20 albums or more. I mean, they've been going strong since maybe the 80s. And I don't know necessarily that they're all winners, that there's some songs that like I'm not a super fan of. But overall, I would say that I probably listened to every single one of their albums. And I have to say that probably in every album, there's at least one or two songs that I am a pretty big fan of. At one point in time, I think one of their songs, it was like from Juke Joint Jezebel, I think. It was used in like a Michael Bay movie, I think. I don't think it was Bad Boys, but it was some big blockbuster. And then they blew up for a second because everybody was like, what is this song? As, you know, people do. And so that album, I think, took off. And then people stopped listening to them because they weren't in blockbuster movies anymore or something. But so a lot of people, I think, know them for maybe that one album. And my view is that I don't even think that's the best album. That there's a few, maybe I'll try to leave some of them in the comments, but there's one album that is like KMFDM Angst, I think. So let's say like Angst, I think is pretty good. There's one, I think it's referred to as Symbols, and that's because the album itself has no name. It's just a bunch of symbols. So it's like KMFDM. Yeah, symbols. Yeah, so yeah, it's the Symbols. It's the Symbols album. Because this is, yeah, guys, this is the name of the album. This stuff. Whatever that is. Yeah, these guys are their own kind of dudes. You gotta, I mean, I really like the originality. If nothing else, I like that they're, doing their thing. And so just to give you context, this is the 9th album, and this came out in 97. So yeah, let's just take a quick, by the way, I think that this one's pretty cool. There were a couple in here that I thought were pretty neat. But yeah, if we go to KMFDM and we look at like their discography, I bet it's going to be wacky. Okay, yeah, here we go. So Mine is a Terrible Thing to Taste. Naive. Yeah, Naive I think is pretty good. Split, I don't know. KMFDM Sucks Money, I'm not sure. Angst, this is this the actual Angst? Wait. Oh, these are tours. Yeah, ignore that. Oh, here we go. Okay, this is their discography. Okay, excellent. So this, yeah, okayish. Another maybe okayish. Not a super fan of that one. This is where I think they start finding their groove by Naive. Money, I didn't totally love. Angst, I quite liked a lot. NULL, I think this is the one that had Juke Joint Jezebel maybe on it. This is the one. Let's click on it. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Yeah. This one. So this is the one that like a lot of people knew about. And again, I think it's because it was in some movie or something. And it's like it's not bad, but I think it's far from one of their best songs. So yeah, check this one out if you want to hear the album that most people are aware of, or listen to me and pick the ones that I think are even better. Extort is solid. This one I liked a lot. It is, yeah, there's some great songs on here in my mind. Yeah, Son of a Gun is pretty cool. And what's interesting about KMFDM, they are like hyper sarcastic. They're like really sarcastic in there. It's like major irony. So what they're saying versus what they actually mean are almost two totally things. Once in a while they'll tell it to you straight, but most of the time they're just like making fun of like one of their songs goes something like, we used to hate people, now we just make fun of them. It's more interesting this way, or something like that. And I think they're being quite serious. They're pretty amusing, I think, in their lyrics, especially if you like subtext of stuff. So this one, I think, yeah, super great album, and definitely a mockery of kind of the superhero movement, and way ahead of their time too. This was like 1996. Okay, Symbols I liked. Adios is where we have DIY. We're laughing, I'm being serious. Yeah. Attack, yeah, I don't recall this one being that super great. Again, not super great. Don't recall that one being. This one I think was kind of interesting. This Blitz. I don't know. I actually don't know if I have heard this one. Okay, cool. I have something to add to my list now. Goju, listen to Blitz. Okay. Yeah, I think this one was, yeah, their art, their album art, I think is actually, I think you've been to my house and you have probably seen some KMFDM album art on my walls. In fact, I think I have some in my kitchen. I have, yeah. Let me see. I have this one. I might have this one. There's another one. Yeah. So anyway, if you like techno with kind of rap lyrics, sometimes they sing, and you're not easily offended, and you like when your artists are like a little bit snarky and have a little bit of an attitude, yeah, you might like these guys. Okay. So that's our precursor. And yeah, one of my all-time favorite songs is this one. coincidentally, just to add to this, there is actually one other album that they have that's not listed here, and that is when they said they were quitting and they became MDMFK. I think that's right. MDFMK for one album. This album. Yeah. And this one, I remember Torpedo. Where's this Torpedo song? Torpedoes. I remember this Torpedoes one was pretty solid. This one, I don't know that like it's on my list of favorite things, but yeah, just to show you how awesome these guys are. I think what they said is they basically said, we are dismantling the band. We've had enough of this garbage and we're quitting. And so they quit just to form MFK and then recorded this album. And then they came back as KMFDM. I mean, like, again, they're doing their own thing. I mean, that's, yeah. I like it. They're their own person. All right, sweet. So now we go back to our list. All right. Elden Ring, the movie. Is this real? Is this not real? First, for any of you that don't know, Elden Ring, by the way, don't trust these numbers at all. I may have accidentally been leaving Cyberpunk on every night and just having it. Somehow I fall asleep better knowing that the video game's just like right there. I'm probably 2% of the way through this game. By the way, I think this game is super awesome from what I've played so far. I think that it is, yeah, exactly. Right. So I have maybe like my white noise going on the TV. And then I've got Cyberpunk and the pause screen or the character screen or something. And then I fall asleep. But overall, my first impressions are this game is really polished. It's really well put together. The story is super engaging. The just general structure of the game, like the multi-dimensionality of it, that you have fighting things, you have these kind of tech skill things. You have really interesting dialogue, choices, non-choices, interactions. Like sometimes you talk to people in person, sometimes you talk to people on the phone, sometimes you're texting them. Like it's pretty cool. Yeah, I've heard really good things about The Witcher 3 in particular. I think this might be the one that people are saying is like one of the best of the Witcher series. But yeah, I think I could have sworn I had at least one of the Witchers, but I don't think that I really played it. Maybe at some point I'll dabble. But for those of you, if you haven't played Cyberpunk, my early impressions after actually only playing it probably maybe 4 hours or so is this is pretty cool. It's for me, some of the things that I really like is one, the open world part I think is definitely my style, which is why I kind of am drawing the parallel to Elden Ring, is that I do think it was maybe a mistake to make it first person, especially how cramped Night City or whatever the city is that you're in, because you're constantly turning around corners and stuff. And so it's, at least for people like me, and I don't think I'm the only person that gets motion sick. I mean, maybe I am very sensitive to this type of thing. And I have in the past actually taken Dramamine so I can play some of the games that are more Halo-ish, because I'll like really like the game and be like, I have to have something to chill out the motion sickness. But you can easily fix this by doing just like what Elden Ring did, which is you don't need it to be first person. And this isn't exactly like Halo in the sense that you're running around and it's like you're sniping people the whole time. You may have those moments, and so in those moments I think you could switch to that, but I don't think it needs to be like the default. So I'll hopefully share more, but like the quests that you go on and just the general strangeness of things that you can do, the way you have like these different disciplines, and as you level, you've got like your main character level, you have your street cred level, and then you have these levels for the different areas of emphasis. Like, I'm going to kind of get these wrong, but like one is, I think, Headhunter, and then another is like, Solo or Shinobi. Another is Engineer. Another is, it's like Nethead or Netgear or something. And what's interesting about these things is they all level independently of the main level. And as you level up these subcategories, they give bonuses that are specific to that domain. So, for example, I think with the Netgear or the Nethead or whatever that is, the first level up is you get like one more RAM or something. And the RAM is basically these little slivers of points that regenerate that you can use to hack things. So you're going to like switch into hack mode, and then you see something you can hack and you sort of like mentally hack into it. And then each time you hack into it, it uses some of the RAM, and then it refills the RAM over a period of time. So essentially, the more RAM you have. By the way, I like the names of these things too, right? Like the fact that they call it RAM. There's just like, it's kind of a really awesome game for super nerds, because there's like a whole bunch of embedded kind of like coder things. Like there's one part where you're following. This isn't a major plot element, so I don't think anybody is going to be too distraught by this. But there's one part where you're trying to figure out something that's gone wrong in this certain area, where like basically all of the turrets and robots have kind of gone rogue, and you're just trying to not get unalived by them. Well, when you eventually figure out what's gone wrong, you see that somebody has essentially hacked into one of the terminals and installed like some malware. You can kind of tell that it's malware and it's a hack if you don't know anything about tech. But if you do know, like if you are a coder and, like you actually play around with Linux or Unix or stuff, you can be like, oh, I know exactly what's going on here. This dude is installing a malware, and like they're even mistyping some things on purpose to be just like leave a trail of things that people would see in like the history command. So like on Linux, you type hist or history and it'll show you. So they're like doing things that are messages to the people that are like going to find out and see that they're like doing these things that are kind of screwy and nefarious. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, Higher Order Bit, very cool game. I'm a big fan so far. And there is a mod in case you're like me and you're resisting playing it because you're worried about the first person shooter element of it. You can make it third person, and it works great. Mostly. There's a couple times where it gets buggy. Okay, so we were going to talk about Elden Ring. So before we talk about Elden Ring the movie, here's Elden Ring the game. If you haven't played this game, and you like games in any capacity, especially role-playing games, you should check this out. I've been playing role-playing games since the 80s. I created my own role-playing game. I'm like the definition of like a Dungeons and Dragons nerd. And so my bar is oftentimes way higher than like a normal human being. And this game comes in and dominates almost all of the bars that I have. On top of that, there's 2 downloadable contents that I think they have or will have. The first is Shadow of the Erdtree. I think that's out. I think I actually have it. The next is this Night Rain, and I think this is coming out next week or something like that. So, and I want to share that the base game of Elden Ring is enormous. I mean, it is so big that the idea of an expansion on top of this is like, it's a level of wacky that yeah, so this is why I haven't even started playing Shadow of the Erdtree and Night Rain, is that I have like a company to run and other things. And so when we get to the point to where I can take maybe a 3-month vacation, I will go back and play these, because at least for me, when you start playing this game, this is pure. You're probably going to want to turn, at least for me, the rest of the world off. So you can go full binge, like 16-hour. You have a different life DLC pack. Yeah, exactly. This is on another level. There's a reason why this won Game of the Year. It's easily one of the best fantasy role-playing games I've ever played, and I played a lot. It's not just that it's gorgeous and that it's different. It's complicated. It's kind of strange, and it's really unusual. There's things in it that you get presented that you don't quite understand, and it kind of makes you scratch your head, like who is that lady, and why does she have only one eye? You know, like just random things that you're not clear on. Like, what is the deal with that really big tree, right? It's just, it's pretty great. And given that it's mostly open world, there are some spots where you kind of are forced down a direction. Yeah, the Tarnished, right? Like there's just a vibe. I kind of dislike using that word now because it's been tarnished, but there's this vibe that you get from Elden Ring, I think right out of the gate, that it's like dark. Even though it's light and it's beautiful and it's gorgeous, you kind of are getting this feeling that maybe you're not good, right? And like things are not super great in whatever world you're in. And what does all this stuff mean? And why did this happen? And you are slowly starting to get some answers as you move along. And it is, it's quite curious. So strong recommend. I don't want to spoil it. I hope I haven't already, but definitely check this game out. And so many hidden things in it that make you go, yeah, well worth the money. And no, I'm not sponsored in any way by Elden Ring. Speaking of sponsorships, we are now getting contacted by certain people that want us to talk about their stuff, mostly related to AI for code and all of this type of thing. And I might do it. But only, as I was discussing with Taylor, only if I get to do my review of it, meaning there are no parameters that I follow from what they want. So I'm not going to do a nonsensical review that basically just talks about how, oh, product A is amazing, it'll change your life. Play Elden Ring, today for $49.99. Like, no, we're not doing that ever. If I'm going to endorse something, I'm going to do it for real. And if I'm going to do like a paid sponsorship for some machine programming system, I'm going to make sure that I am given the editorial and content creation freedom to say the good stuff and the bad stuff that I want to say. Very much like how I've reviewed many of the repos, that we look at, is I can share what I really think and what I like, what I don't like, kind of thing. So anyway, we'll see. I won't mention any of the vendors' names because we're not there yet, but you'll know. And I'll start the episode letting everyone know this is a sponsored thing, but I'm allowed to say what I really want to say. And so here we go. In this particular case, this is not sponsored in any way. The Elden Ring folks haven't asked me to say anything about this. I'm doing this purely because I freaking love this game, and I think you will too. All right. So with that being said, 2 downloadable things, and then we have confirmation, I guess. There's several people that seem to have said this, that the movie is now officially confirmed. And this just happened. Like it's blowing up on my news feeds. All the nerdy gamer folks are coming out saying it's coming. It's going to be here. And the other thing that is looking really interesting is it looks like they're teaming up with A24. Now, for those of you who don't know about A24, this studio, at least for me, is one of my favorite movie studios because they intentionally do strange but really nuanced movies. I think in the early days, maybe they did quite a bit of like horror movies or movies that were like more thrillers. But if you look them up, you'll see that they have a bunch of movies that are just kind of unusual, but they tend to be really good. Like I saw, I think one of their executives talk about how the way they pick the movies is they won't do like big budget blockbuster movies. They won't do super trendy movies, but they will do movies where there's a huge amount of passion for whatever the subject matter is from the person that's presenting the movie to them. Whether that's like an original script or a director that really loves some idea. And obviously, as you're seeing live with me, I'm a huge fan of Elden Ring. I'm one of millions of tarnished that absolutely love this game. So I think that they're picking up on this sort of underground cult following. So I'm super pumped. Oh, wow. Okay. I Yeah, so Taylor just let us know that they're also doing a Death Stranding movie, and I did not know that either. Yeah, here's our Kojima guy. What is his name again? I'm getting his name wrong. Don't know, but he's like the main guy behind Death Stranding, Death Stranding 2, and Metal Gear Solid and other things. That is super cool. That's like incredible to know about that A24 is doing both Elden Ring and Death Stranding. I mean, wow. Talk about like great picks. So that being said, video game to movies doesn't always end up well. Obviously, I think there's probably been more misses than wins, but I do think that we might be turning the corner. The one that jumps out at me that's a huge win is Fallout, the Fallout series from Amazon. I think that one, I feel like there's another that was also really good. And no, I'm not talking about Resident Evil. I mean, I think those are amusing as like bad movies to watch. No offense to any of the Resident Evil folks. I'll watch them, but not like watch them, if you know what I mean. Whereas Fallout, I think was, I mean, I couldn't believe how good it was. And I feel like they nailed the whole sort of vault dwellers versus like here's life in the vault versus like, oh, and here's reality, which you're clearly disconnected from. So my hope is that this goes well, but I do want to attempt to curb people's enthusiasm because we don't always succeed when we do this. And already with this being such a cult classic and the expectations on this are so enormous, the likelihood that this is going to be as incredible as the game is probably like this big, right? So let's maybe keep some form of reservation and then maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised. Okay, cool. So, and I think I was looking at some of these. I feel like there's something down here that I saw that made me giggle. Yeah, here's this. A24 doing it is honestly the best case scenario. Still is a huge mountain to climb, even just to be a decent adaptation, but at least it isn't starting for subterranean point. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, and I liked this comment too. The plot of the movie should be the history of the lands between before our character. I mean, I think actually if it's just something that's like from the lands between, and there's so much lore in this game, I feel like, yeah, my hope is they don't try to make the movie mirror the game, like the actual, like I hope that it doesn't start with the whoever fighting the tree sentinel, like ugh. No, but instead they focus on some of the lore and things. I feel like there is something else. There's something else I saw in here that I really liked, but I can't remember now. And there was something else that I saw over. Yeah, I feel like this whole "you died" thing, this is gonna have to show quite a bit. So anyway, yeah, if you have people like Asman talking about how awesome this is, and you have Moist Critical, I don't know if he's actually talking about Elden Ring, but I think I just saw him doing a live stream. I think, yeah, just before I started this, I think he was doing a live stream talking about the Elden Ring movie. So the people are getting excited about this. This is looking like it's going to be a real thing, and here we go. So, Oh, wow. Okay. That's great. Yeah. And somehow that doesn't surprise me. Yeah. So Taylor and I have one of our friends, I think he's worked with T for quite some time. They go way back. I only met Jiffy a year or two ago, but he's also sort of cut from a similar cloth of loving video games and being like really deep into kind of the Dungeons and Dragons type of fantasy stuff. Even so much as I think he would even do the board game. I think he was telling me that they would have like the D&D campaigns with some of his buddies. Does that sound right, T? I think he was mentioning that. But anyway, that's super cool. We'll have to sync with some of the Elden Ring folks and see. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Okay, cool. All right. Now we're on to element number 2. So we've spoken about video games and stuff, and we were doing that for the last hour. So now we get to switch from fun nerd stuff to, well, still fun nerd stuff, but maybe now we have to think a bit more critically. Okay. So here we go. We're gonna take a look at something that, again, is related to the basics, but may cause you to wonder, why in the world is that even possible? And, oh, wow, this is bad. Okay. So we're going to keep this super simple. This is not anything super advanced, as I was mentioning before. This is just mastering the basics. So I have my int main, and I'm going to output this crazy, silly function output. So here's me saying print crazy, silly, and then actually execute crazy, silly, and print it out. And there's no secret here. There's no, like, we're going to get into the mystery and the riddle, but that's not this. This is just straightforward, me calling a function and getting us ready for the output. And this function is going to return an integer. Okay, so we're going to compile this. It compiles, right? We just compiled it, and now we build it. It builds, and now we run it, and it just ran. Okay, and so it says crazy, silly, -1. All right, so it printed out crazy, silly, this guy. And then what it does in the function is we have an int pointer called pointer, and we set that to null. And then we have this Boolean B that's set to false. And I was using this, but I'm not using it anymore, so we can get rid of it. Now, if pointer is equal to null, then we're going to return -1. And if pointer is not equal to null, then it's going to dereference this and print the value in pointer. Okay, so we're going to just do something like this. Okay, so we just did this new int on pointer, and by the way, we haven't given it a value. We've just allocated memory for it. And so who knows what this thing is actually going to print out. But let's take a look. Okay, so we go ahead and we run this. And so it checks this and says, is it null? And it says, no, it's not null. And it's not null because null is essentially 0. And you can see right there, null is defined as 0. And when you assign this new, it's now pointing to a valid memory location, and that valid memory location won't have the value of 0. It'll be something else. Now, what's interesting is we didn't give, although we allocated memory, we didn't give the pointer a value inside of it. Now, we could do this. We could just say this is going to be equal to 5. And then we can go ahead and run this again, and then lo and behold, it's 5. Okay. So the reason why it had some random value before is we allocated the memory, but we didn't assign the memory location any value. So it's just giving us some random whatever is in that memory location. And again, that's C++. It's going to not do any work for you, and that's a blessing and a curse. In the sense, it's a blessing in that it's not going to waste execution cycles doing things that you haven't asked it to do. But at the same time, it is not going to do things that you're not asking it to do, so you could get random stuff. And this is, in some sense, random, in like quasi-random, and that it's just going to pick a different memory location. So in this first one, it's like -842 whatever, and then if we run this again, it is probably going to be some different value. Okay, maybe it's the same. If it's the same, just to be clear, what this is often doing is this is probably in debug mode. Yeah, so it's in debug mode, and so the debugger is essentially trying to do stuff that maybe it thinks makes your life easier by recreating essentially the same memory footprint each time it runs. So then if you get strange crashes in debug mode, you'll be able to repeat those with some frequency. But if you switch this to release mode, it should hopefully turn this nonsense off, and we should start getting different values here. Okay, so it's giving us 0 now. Oh, I probably have in release mode. It might be trying to get clever and doing some initialization. Okay, anyway, the higher order bit is that it's not like reliable, that you can depend on this being a specific value. The only thing you can depend on is that you've allocated the memory now. Okay, so now we understand what this is doing. And so if this thing is null, then it's just going to return -1. Otherwise, if it's not null, it's going to dereference the pointer, return the value in it. All right. So now we're going to go down and take a look at a little bit of a conundrum. This is one of the ways that you write this code. Sort of like what I would say maybe the old school way of you have the thing that you're trying to compare against, and then you say, is it equal to some constant? Now, there's a danger here in that you might accidentally do this. And so what I did here is I removed the check for equality and instead made it assignment. And the compiler is giving me this squiggly saying, hey, did you mean to do this thing and not this thing? So that's cool that it's trying to help us. But let's just ignore that, and then let's see what happens. So we run this. Okay, it crashes. It's like, you know that you're in a bad state. You're done. Okay, and it's crashed. See here. Let's stop the debugger. Okay, it crashed because what I did is I assigned pointer to null, and then it evaluates this expression, which is true. It's saying that, did this operation succeed? It did. So the result of this is true. So it doesn't return -1. And then it tries to dereference pointer, and then it crashes, right? Okay, so obviously we don't want to do that. We actually want to do this. One of the more advanced ways to do this is like this. And the reason why you do this over this other way is that, so we test this, and now what we're doing is we're basically just inverting this and saying that is null equal to the pointer as opposed to the other way around. And let's just test this. And if we're doing it right, what we should get is that it should print out -1. And it does. And everything works correctly. Again, this is all super basic stuff. Nothing magical going on. The beauty of doing it this way is now if we drop the equal sign, this is no longer a warning. This is an error. It's an error because you cannot perform assignment for left-handed constants. This is a left-handed constant, and it cannot be assigned a value. Not going to work. So a lot of people argue, myself included, that the constants should be on the left side, not the right side. So you can't do this. Okay. Hopefully this all makes sense. And at this point, those of you that are experts might be thinking, okay, Goju, this is still CS 101 stuff. When is it going to get hard? Well, when we look at the original code, that is this. And we imagine in our heads that we are going to translate this to this. And we do this with some level of speed and carelessness. We might get this, where we've started to translate this to this, but we forgot to delete this part. Now, you might be saying to yourself, nobody would actually make this mistake, Goju. This is nonsense. I made this mistake. I made this mistake in Nautica code. I was doing a mass transformation of the code that was of this form to then put it into this form. And I was transforming on the order of hundreds, maybe thousands of if statements. And there were two that I missed. Now, in my mind, what I thought is this is an illegal expression. There's no way that this compiles. But it does compile. We just compiled it. See the time? 10:18 p.m. See this? 10:08. It compiles. So now, I want you to look at this and ask yourself, what on earth is this code going to do? Again, this is just the basics, right? There's nothing special. This isn't template metaprogramming. We're not doing anonymous functions. Okay. So runtime error. What is the runtime error that you think it has, T? Assignment error. Okay, so let's go down this a little bit further. Yeah, right. Exactly. So that's good. This is a good knee jerk, right? Is that so we look at this and immediately we think, okay, this is strange because at least for me, initially this feels like this shouldn't even be possible, right? The compiler should actually be like, you can't do this. Like these expressions, these comparison operators are binary. They don't take three parameters. And you have three parameters here. You have a null, you have a pointer, and a null. So now let's try to understand what is the compiler actually going to do here? The first question is, why do we think that this code compiles? Like, again, remember when we did the equal thing we did, let's just revert it back so you can see. We did this thing, and then Visual Studio is like, hey, I don't think you actually meant to do that, right? Like it's saying, oh, don't do this. So where's the squiggly mark for this thing? No squiggly. Even Visual Studio is like, yeah, I don't have a problem with this. It seems like it has a problem with this, but that's, super easy. We can easily overcome that by just doing something like this, right? And now, what is it? Okay, hold on. Why is it still complaining? Okay, who knows? I think that it's just slow on the update, or maybe it probably hasn't. Okay, who knows? We'll ignore this piece because this isn't material to the larger thing that we're looking at. So ignore that, but trust me, we can make this thing go away. So the first thing is like, what do we think this is actually doing? Like, let's suppose for a second that this is valid C++. What will the execution actually be? And I'll give T, I think that you might be the only person that's speaking, but I have a sneaking suspicion there may be other people lurking. And feel free to chime in if you have any thoughts. I'll give people a little bit more time before I jump to the answer. So you can, I don't want to, especially because this is like live stream. If this was just me recording it, I'd be like, you can pause it now and then I'll tell you. But I want to, for those people that are spending their Friday night hanging out with us, or maybe Saturday morning, if they're in other parts of the world. Would it be Friday? I think Saturday morning. Give them a small opportunity to try to figure this out. And as a matter of fact, I'm tempted to stop the recording. Yeah, hey everybody. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and give the answer. Mostly because my bladder is slowly getting full. And normally I would pause the video because we're streaming. I have to get up, and I don't know that I've reached that level of sophistication yet. Maybe we'll get there next time. And this probably means that we're maybe going to stop. No, I'm going to get to this one. And then we'll continue. Yeah, I know, right? And we'll continue with these ones next time. Okay, so here's what it's going to do. As we were mentioning before, the way to break these things down, and this is the sign of a true master. If you're truly a master of the basics, and again, it's just the basics, and almost everything is basic. Just keep that in mind. Almost everything in programming and in life is basic. You just need to know the basics. And in this case, all we need to do is just break this down to the basics, but we need to really understand how the basics work. The way the basics work is that this expression is controlled by this operator. This is the is equal to operator. And the way these expressions work is it uses operator precedence. And if the operator precedence is at a level of equality, then it just goes from left to right. Given that there are two operators here, is equal to and is equal to, we know that these have to be at the same precedence order. They must be, because they're the same operator. They can't possibly be different levels of precedence. So we know then that it has to evaluate from left to right. It must. So with that, all we need to do is understand what these operators do and their range of function. So as we discussed before, the is equal to operator is a binary operator. It takes two input parameters, and then it evaluates to some value. Just as a quick test, what is the outcome of the is equal to operator? Like what are the range of output values? Does anybody want to jump in? T, do you want to share what the possible outputs are for is equal to? Which is the case, I think, of almost any mathematical comparison operator, I think. Yeah, it's true or false. It's a bool, exactly. So it's a bool. So we know the range of outputs, exactly. Yeah, great job. I wonder if I can give you like a, how do I like give you like a, oh, I can block you. No. Okay, I was going to give you like the heart stream, but I don't know how to do it. Anyway, okay. So, yeah. So I think T's starting to figure out what's going on here. So this is going to output true or false. And again, it's just the basics. That's all we need to do. Just break it down to the basics, and we'll figure this out. We know that equality is limited to Booleans, and Booleans only have two values, true or false. So that's going to be the constraint. Whatever this outcome is, we know that it has to be a Boolean. That much is certain. And what will predicate the output is the value of pointer, right? So in this case, its pointer is null. And so what is it going to do? It's going to say, is null equal to null? And in that case, that is true. And then it's going to process the second part of this expression. Is true equal to null? It is not. In C++ and in C, true, by definition, is, oh, yes, one would think, right? But notice that when we compile this, Taylor, there's no compiler error saying it's a type mismatch. Because where's the compiler error? It's not there. I'm hitting compile over and over. It compiles with no issue on a type mismatch. Now, it's possible that I don't have the warnings cranked all the way up, but I'm just using the default project settings from Visual Studio. So maybe there is a way to make this force out on a type mismatch, because it could be argued that maybe it is a type mismatch. Mismatch between a Boolean and null. But is it really? Null is just a mask for the value 0, and false is just a mask for the value 0. So I don't even know, actually, if this is a type mismatch. Not in C++. Now, C++, as I understand it, C and C++, as I understand it, false is 0. That is its value. I wonder if we can get it to show this. Show me this. Okay. Okay. Well, we can Google this later. I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. False is 0. Now, true is anything that is not 0. So true, so for the compiler, they must define false as 0, and they can define true to be whatever they want. As long as it's not 0, it can be -1, it can be -1,000,000, it could be +17. It just needs to essentially not be 0. And then when you're comparing these things, then when you're doing equality for Booleans, in theory, that you could do an integer to a bool, and then it will convert the integer to its correct Boolean representation. So for example, if true, let's just say for argument's sake that true is 17, right? And then you have this int x and it's 95. Okay. And then you do if true is equal to x. What it should do is essentially convert x to its appropriate Boolean value, which is 17 in this case, because it's non-zero. And so it'll convert it to 17, and then this will say, is 17 equal to 17? It is. Okay, so this is true. That's basically like what's going on. And that's also why you can do things like this. You can say if x, and x doesn't need to be 1, x can be 45 or negative a million. And it'll be like, yep, that's true. But if x happens to be the value 0, it's like, nope, that's false. Okay, cool. Again, all just the basics. Remember, well, we're not touching anything other than just Booleans and equality. So the first step is it does this operation, and we know this because we understand the operator precedence, and we know that is equal to is a binary operator, can only deal with 2 parameters, so it has to function on this. It cannot, it doesn't even know what this is. This isn't even part of whatever it's doing, right? So then it performs this operation and says, is null equal to pointer? And in this case, it is. So then it says, okay, that's true. Then, after it finishes that reduction, it then says, is true equal to null? But we know that null is 0. That's 0. And we know that that translates to that. And therefore, these things are, am I getting that right? True is equal to, oh, I feel like my logic has gone sideways at some point here. Yeah, I'm not sure. Equal to false. True is equal to 0. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to run this and see what it does. Okay? So, null is equal to pointer. That's true. This should be false. And so, yeah, in this case, true is equal to false. So that will be false. So then, in theory, what it should do, right, is return -1. Is that right? I think that's right. And somehow I think that it's not doing that. Let's find out. Crash. Okay, so we do have that pointer is null here, and somehow we evade this failure step. Oh, no, this is right. Yeah, this is correct. That is actually the point. Sorry, I was confusing myself. So let's back up. So what we had is if true is equal to 0, and then this is this will be false. Okay? This then translates to false. Therefore, this will not exit, even though it should. Well, if we wrote it the correct way, it would. But we didn't. And so it'll walk through this process. First, it'll tell you that these things, null is equal to pointer, and that's true. Then it'll say, is true equal to 0? And then it'll up promote 0 to false. Then it'll say, nope, true is not equal to false, and it will not exit. So then it'll go here, and it will crash. And now we have created a crash bug, right? Like we're not getting any output because this program is cooked because we're dereferencing a null pointer. And the craziest part about this is that, one, this looks like this should be illegal, at least in my mind. Second is it almost looks like this is benign. Like, oh, you're just checking to see if pointer is null twice. So this is going to be true, obviously, and then it's going to be true here. So it'll just, these will both be true, so it'll exit. And that's not what it does. What it does is it evaluates this and then gives you this Boolean result. And then it evaluates this second piece and gives you this Boolean result. And this is not what you want at all. And now you went from code that you were trying to safeguard and do the right thing, and instead introduced a crash bug. Crazy. And it's totally legal syntax. There's no compiler error on this. So what is the point in all this? First, these types of errors actually exist. I made this mistake in Nautica code. I fat-fingered this, and I did the same thing. I introduced a crash bug. It was only in this very particular case that it was something like most of the cases had exited before it got to this. So let's say like 99% of cases exited before here, right? So most of the time, it never even would get to this condition. It would all, right, it's crazy to me too that the compiler doesn't catch this. But if you think about it, like, this is actually legal. And in fact, at least in Go, we have seen, Taylor, that some programmers, even code that's in the CNCF, I think this is in Kubernetes, where people are using this and they're doing it on purpose. Now, this is where I want to draw the point on why this is legal, but why it's still a bad idea to do, is that people would do this. So I'm going to leave this here as the example of like, who would ever write that? You're just an idiot. Versus x is equal to it's something like this. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm going to just clean up these things so you can see. Notice, I don't know. I'm just putting in gobbledygook. Notice, again, no compiler error. No compiler anything on this. It's fine. I just compiled it. It's like, nope, that's cool. That's totally legit. This code just compiled. Why? Because this is legal syntax. And what this code is doing is the same thing as this code, is that it's checking to see if x is equal to error. Then it's going to turn whatever this is into a Boolean. In this case, 5 is not equal to 88. And so this will be false. And then it'll say, is false not equal to false? And it'll say, no, it's not. And then we can change this to like 99. And then we can run this. And then what we should see is that Crazy Silly will like print out 99. And it does. For exactly the same reason as this. Is that X is equal to error? Nope, it's not. That's false. False is not equal to false. Wait, did I get that right? X is equal to false is... Okay, maybe my logic is going sideways. But you get the point. Is that this is... Yeah, false is not equal to false is false. Sorry, there's too many negatives here. False is not equal to false is false. This is not a true result, so it doesn't return 7. It goes to 99. Okay, the higher order bit. I know, there's like way too many negatives. I apologize. Yeah, supposedly I teach this stuff. Anyway, the higher order bit is, it's a triple negative. It's, yeah. Reduce it to the... This is why my students really don't like me. So that's false. Which is why it goes here. Okay, now the higher order bit is that this is legal syntax. And you may see this. Like, I generally do not like this syntax. I do not like this because I understand what it's doing. I understand that it's reading this, but there are many issues that you can have with this. The first issue that really throws people for a loop is that if these operators do not have the same level of precedence, it's not going to do what you think it's going to do. It's not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to read this from left to right. This is already super complicated, folks. Don't do this. Instead, just do the right thing. Like, X is error, and then just say this. And then just say this. Just make it, don't flex on people. This is so much easier to understand because you're just breaking it apart. You're allowing people to see the intermediate states and be like, oh, you're seeing if X is equal to error. Oh, if X is error. And if, again, still too many negatives, but it's simpler than it was before. So this is my coding example for today. And oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just no. Just no. This is a big no. That when you start streaming these binary operators together, while it is legal syntax, it is so not good. One, because these operators oftentimes are converting things into Booleans that are going to force you to change the way that you're thinking about things. And most people don't have such mastery of the basics. They don't know how this is going to evaluate. And then the intermediate states. The other piece that is really mentally taxing is that when you have operators that are not at the same precedence level, that then do stuff like this, you have a really hard time understanding the order of operations. Like, for example, if you did this. I don't even know. I don't know. I do not know off the top of my head when it's going to do the increment on this pointer, right? Because I know for sure it's not going to do it before this. But what I don't know is it going to do it before this or after this? I don't know. And why should I even need to know? This code shouldn't be this complicated. You should not do this. If you want it to increment before you do the check on null, then you should have it be two things. If you want it to increment after it does that, then just do this. Don't flex in the code. You're only hurting yourself and the rest of the team. So anyway, I think that we'll call this a wrap now, because we went from super fun, easy stuff to just simple Boolean logic. Again, like, there's nothing magical about. All of us know what null is. We know what equality is. And we have at least a basic understanding of pointers if we're coding in C and C++. And this even got me confused as we were walking through it. I thought, oh, did I get this wrong? Is this actually doing? And then I had to be like, oh, no, right. Yes, this is false. That's why it won't enter this. That's why it'll go down here. And then when it dereferences pointer, then it's going to crash. Right? Like, and I supposedly have a PhD in this area, right? So if it's confusing me, I think that there's a good chance it's going to confuse a lot of people. There's no need for this. So just generally, let's stay away from these types of things. And I think that the key takeaway is, when you're writing code, don't flex. Just because you can do something, right? Just because you can do something, oh, that's good. I'm glad that that's not legal. But even this, it's not complaining about this. Really, guys? And I see this stuff. And so just so you know that I'm not crazy. For those of you that think that I'm just sitting around making up ridiculous things that nobody would actually do in real life, I'd like to take you to my good friend, React Native, and show you. I hope I can find the one that I know and love so much. I feel like they keep changing the pagination, by the way, T. I feel like it was longer before, and oh, here we go. Oh, yeah, this is one of my favorites. So in the event that you think I'm making this stuff up and nobody really writes control expressions that are that complicated, I would like to introduce you to my friend in React Native. This is in production quality code. This is real. This is not pretend. Look at this. For the next episode, we'll have a pop quiz for anyone to tell me what this code does. Because I have no idea. I mean, this code makes this code look like this is kindergarten stuff. And we saw how complicated just this is. This is literally, this is baby steps compared to whatever this lunacy is. Yeah, I know, me too. I would much rather solve this bug. At least I can wrap my head around this bug. This one, and again, this is me showing something that probably a lot of us are feeling like, yeah, but nobody'd really write code like that, Goju, except when they do. And they write it not that complicated, but 100x more complicated. Part of the reason why this is so complicated, just so you know, is, first of all, it combines bitwise operators with Boolean operators. It embeds ternaries inside of if statements. So that's an if inside of an if. And they perform mutating operations that that are strewn through the actual if expression. And those mutating operations, this is where things start to get really wacky, is some of them you don't even know if they're going to get triggered, right? Is like, I know, I don't even know, is I have a sneaking suspicion that by the time we get to this open paren, it will start this expression evaluation here, but I don't know about this one here. Like, I'd have to dissect all these parens to try to figure out the execution order. And I don't have clarity. And that makes it even harder, is that when you have mutating operations that exist inside of control expressions that sometimes may trigger and sometimes may not trigger, woo boy, good luck trying to figure that out. Like, that's okay. You'll see it on the recording after, but we want to avoid things like this. We want to avoid mutating operations inside of control expressions. We definitely want to avoid ternaries that are inside of if statements. And generally, it's not a super great idea to mix bitwise operators with Boolean operators. One, because the precedence order is different. Two, because they look very similar, I think. So it's very easy to mistake when you're seeing these double ands, be like, oh, it's just another, oh, actually, no, this is bitwise, this is logical. So for those of you that think that this is just academic in nature, like, no, not definitely not academic. We've got these guys happening in a far worse capacity in real life. So we need to be vigilant and go out of our way to to stamp out bad React Native code. And by the way, this is only the beginning. There's actually some other code up here that, let me see if I can find it, that is just so bad. It's sorry, I'm not trying to pick on React Native. I truthfully, I'm not. Writing really good code is very hard, but there's certain things that you generally want to try to avoid. And yeah, I can't find exactly where it is. Maybe we'll look at this next. Look at this next time. So yeah, and if you're wondering why I'm laughing, just watch the never nesting. It's no wonder why open source maintainers are like having a hard life, right? It's like, guys, right out of the gate, like the function just starts and you're going like 5 deep. Why? Yeah. It is hard for sure. So anyway, thanks everybody. This is the end of this stream. We'll maybe go again tomorrow. Hopefully we all learned something interesting, and I definitely feel like that was a doozy even for me. I'm glad we didn't give up. Actually, I keep wanting to end, but I feel like we can end on a really good note. And that is to seek out failure, right? So there was a point in there where I was getting confused about the outcome, that I thought maybe I was wrong. Yeah, in small footsteps. But instead of backing away from it, we leaned into it, right? We're like, well, let's actually run this and see. And then once we did, we were able to piece it together and realize, oh no, this is right. Right? It is doing the thing that we thought it was. The logic that we broke it down to is correct. And the way we're explaining it is right. So even in those moments where you're starting to get a little bit on rocky ground, or hollowed ground, what have you, still pushing forward to try to, maybe this is an even better one, persist through the adversity, can be super helpful. So, all right, folks. Thanks for this Jeter episode. This was a lot of fun. And we'll try to finish the second half of this next time.